Welcome back to Untold Mysteries, where the past hides secrets that still terrify us today. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe because what you're about to hear was almost erased from history. Now, imagine this, a battlefield silent, the air thick with smoke. Thousands of soldiers frozen in place, eyes wide with horror. They're not facing an army. They're facing something else, something ancient, something alive. This wasn't a myth. It was a real weapon, one that could melt armor, ignite the sea, and turn entire fleets into ash. The Greeks called it Greek fire, but others called it the breath of the dragon. And the truth behind it is even darker than you think, because to this day, and no one knows exactly how it worked. The formula was lost, buried, erased by the very people who created it. So what was Greek fire? And why did ancient empires fear it more than death itself? Let's go back to the 7th century. The Byzantine Empire was falling apart. Enemies surrounded them, Persians, Arabs, Slavs. Their once mighty navy was outnumbered, but then a mysterious engineer appeared. His name was Callinicus, a refugee from Syria. He claimed he had seen visions, flames that burned even underwater. He told Emperor Constantine IV that he could build a weapon that would make the empire invincible. No one believed him. Until the first test, a small Byzantine ship sailed out into the harbor. The crew loaded a strange bronze tube, like a dragon's mouth. Inside, a secret mixture of oil, resin, and something unknown. They lit the fuse. A jet of fire erupted, a stream of liquid flame that clung to the water, spreading across the waves. The Arab ships tried to escape, but the sea itself was burning. Men jumped overboard, only to catch fire in the ocean. Eyewitnesses said it sounded like a living creature, roaring, hissing, devouring everything. And in that single battle, Greek fire saved an empire. But here's the part they don't tell you. The weapon wasn't just powerful, it was forbidden. Only a few men knew how to make it. They swore oaths of secrecy stronger than death. Every engineer who learned the secret vanished. Some say they were executed by the emperor to make sure the formula never left the empire. Others believe it was never human knowledge to begin with, because the flames behaved unnaturally. They moved against the wind. They stuck to human skin, and they burned underwater. Something science can't fully explain even today. Wait until you hear this next part. Centuries later, crusaders tried to recreate Greek fire. They mixed oil, sulfur, and pitch, but nothing worked. They could never get that same terrifying effect. It was as if the formula itself was cursed. And then, something strange happened. In the 12th century, a monk claimed he discovered ancient scrolls describing the weapon. He tried to recreate it, but the mixture exploded in his monastery, burning everything to the ground. Since then, anyone who's tried to rebuild Greek fire has met disaster. Could it be that Callinicus's invention wasn't human at all? Some say he was guided by angels, others whisper he made a deal with something darker. The records of his life are filled with gaps, whole pages erased. His tomb, missing. But here's what we do know. The Byzantines guarded Greek fire for centuries. Every battle they fought with it ended the same way. Enemy ships vanished in flame. But after the empire fell, the weapon disappeared. No trace. No formula. No survivors. Some historians believe the recipe was buried beneath Constantinople, now modern-day Istanbul. Others think it was thrown into the sea so no one could ever use it again. But every few decades, reports resurface. Fishermen claim to have seen strange lights beneath the water near old Byzantine ruins. Oil slicks that burn when touched by air. Could remnants of Greek fire still lie beneath the waves? Or was it something more than a weapon? A living force that can never die. The mystery of Greek fire isn't just about ancient chemistry. It's about power and fear. A weapon so devastating, it changed the course of history. And yet, it's been wiped clean from every known record. Why? Who wanted it erased? And what if someone has already rediscovered it? Because there are modern weapons, napalm, thermite, that resemble Greek fire in terrifying ways. But scientists still can't replicate the ancient version exactly. It burned underwater. It followed ships. And it was controlled, somehow, like a living flame. In the next part, we'll uncover the hidden manuscripts that describe its creation. and the shocking theory that connects it to ancient alien technology. So stay with me, because what you're about to hear next could rewrite everything we know about ancient warfare. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and comment below. Do you think Greek fire was science or something supernatural? You're still watching Untold Mysteries, and if you've made it this far, you already know this wasn't just an ancient weapon, it was something far stranger. Something the world wasn't meant to understand. But what if I told you pieces of the secret still exist, hidden in plain sight? Let's go back, centuries after Greek fire disappeared. Monks in Constantinople kept detailed chronicles of every imperial weapon. But one entry stands out. It's short and cryptic. It says, "The flame that obeys shall not be written or spoken. It is bound by heaven, guarded by fire, and lost by pride." What could that mean? Some historians believe it describes how the weapon was controlled, not just ignited, because unlike ordinary fire, Greek fire could be aimed. It didn't spread randomly, it moved like it had intent. Imagine a weapon that senses its target, that hunts rather than burns. Impossible? Maybe not. In 2017, scientists studying ancient texts found sketches of a strange pumping system attached to Byzantine ships. It used bronze tubes, pressure valves, and something like a rotating nozzle. When fired, the flame was projected through narrow jets, creating intense heat and a screaming sound. Sailors described it as a living dragon. Some claimed the fire changed color mid-air, from gold to green to white, and yet the ingredients were supposedly simple: oil, pitch, sulfur, but that doesn't explain its most terrifying feature: the ability to burn on water. No ordinary mixture can do that. Not even modern napalm burns that efficiently without fuel support. So what was it? Here's where things get stranger. In the late 1800s, an archaeologist named Alexander Rousopoulos discovered fragments of a scroll buried beneath a ruined monastery near Mount Athos. The writing was partly in Greek, partly in something else, an unknown script. It described liquid fire born of the stars. It warned, "Do not summon the fire that lives, for it devours those who call it." And on the bottom corner of the parchment, burned into the page, was a circular seal. Inside it, a pattern that looked eerily like a spiral galaxy. Could this have been a symbolic mark, or a reference to something far beyond our world? Some theorists believe Greek fire wasn't entirely man-made. They say Callinicus, the supposed inventor, may have discovered something ancient, something buried beneath the earth long before humanity existed. Think about it. Ancient texts often describe gifts of fire from the gods. Prometheus, the Titan, stole fire from heaven and gave it to man. What if that wasn't just a metaphor? What if fire from the gods referred to technology? Alien, advanced, misunderstood. Wait until you hear this. In 1951, near modern-day Izmit in Turkey, construction workers unearthed strange metallic fragments sealed in clay jars. Inside the jars were traces of a black tar-like substance. When analyzed, the fragments contained traces of magnesium, quicklime, and something unidentified, a compound modern labs couldn't reproduce. The samples were later lost in a fire at the local museum. Coincidence? Maybe. But the timing is suspicious. Every time someone gets close to rediscovering the truth about Greek fire, something happens. Records disappear, labs burn, researchers go silent. Could this ancient formula still be protected by design? Now here's something even wilder. In 1972, a classified Soviet report surfaced briefly before being buried again. It mentioned experiments in creating a self-igniting fuel based on descriptions from Byzantine warfare records. The scientists claimed they achieved combustion under saltwater conditions, but the project was terminated for ethical and environmental reasons. The documents were sealed. If that doesn't raise questions, I don't know what does. Maybe Greek fire wasn't just a weapon. Maybe it was energy, a lost form of energy manipulation using magnetism, pressure, and chemical reaction, so advanced, it seemed alive. Think about the language used. The fire that obeys, the flame that lives. Those aren't just poetic phrases, they sound like someone describing technology they don't understand. Now, let's talk about something few people mention. A Byzantine legend says the secret formula was stored inside 3 copper cylinders. Each held 1/3 of the ingredients, and they were buried in different corners of the empire. One in Constantinople, one in Antioch, one in Alexandria. All 3 cities eventually fell, conquered, burned, or lost to time. But here's the chilling part. During World War II, German officers searching ancient ruins in Turkey reported finding sealed bronze containers marked with strange spiral symbols. They were taken to Berlin and never seen again. After the war, Allied soldiers searching Nazi research facilities found partial blueprints labeled Operation Helios. The files described a thermal reactive fluid that could sustain combustion in any environment. Sound familiar? Some believe the Nazis were trying to recreate Greek fire. Others think they already had, and destroyed it when Germany fell. Either way, the formula remains lost, or hidden, but maybe, just maybe, the world isn't ready for it. Because if a single drop could set the sea ablaze, imagine what it could do now. In the final part of this story, we'll uncover the truth behind the weapon's disappearance and explore the terrifying theory that it was never destroyed, only transformed into something we still use today. So don't go anywhere, because what comes next will make you question everything you know about modern warfare. If you're enjoying this story, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment below. Do you believe Greek fire was ancient technology or a lost alien weapon? If you've made it to this part, you've already walked through centuries of secrets. But what you're about to hear now changes everything. Because what if I told you, Greek fire didn't vanish, it evolved. You see, history loves to pretend that ancient knowledge was primitive, that people from 1,000 years ago couldn't possibly understand chemistry, physics, or engineering the way we do. But what if they did? What if they knew more than we think, and someone made sure that knowledge disappeared? Let's start with something simple. Modern military archives reference persistent incendiary compounds, substances that burn through armor, even underwater. Sounds familiar? That's because Greek fire fits the exact same profile. Here's the disturbing part. The 1960s, during the Vietnam War, reports surfaced of a terrifying weapon called Napalm B, a jelly-like substance that stuck to the skin and burned even underwater. When soldiers described it, they said, "It clings, it screams, and it never stops burning," almost word for word. The same way Byzantine sailors described Greek fire 1,000 years earlier. Coincidence? Maybe not. A declassified CIA memo from 1967 mentions historical prototypes of sustained combustion weapons derived from Eastern sources. Eastern sources. That phrase shows up 3 times. Could that mean Byzantine records? Or something older? Wait until you hear this next part. In 1999, a researcher named Dr. Philip Kostis was studying medieval manuscripts at the Vatican Archives. He requested access to a locked section known as Archivum Secretum. Inside, he reportedly found a fragment of parchment describing a liquid weapon that consumes both flesh and steel. Preserved by royal oath, he tried to photograph it. 2 days later, his access was revoked. Weeks later, he disappeared, no trace, no explanation. It's as if the secret was still being protected. But there's more. A few years ago, in 2011, a fire broke out at a chemical research lab in Thessaloniki, Greece. The lab specialized in reconstructing ancient metallurgical compounds. Local reports mentioned a series of unexplained explosions followed by bluish flames that burned for hours. No one could extinguish them. Firefighters said it was like trying to fight a ghost. Authorities blamed volatile experiments, but the timing? It happened just days after the lab published a paper referencing Byzantine liquid combustion. Could someone have been close to rediscovering it? Let's piece this together. Ancient records describe a weapon that burned on water. Modern experiments prove it's possible using compounds like aluminum, magnesium, and quicklime. And classified documents hint that governments are still researching self-sustaining thermochemical fuels. If you connect those dots, You get something terrifying, a weapon born in the 7th century, perfected in the 20th, and now hidden behind the walls of military secrecy. But here's what makes the story even darker. Some scientists argue Greek fire wasn't meant to destroy, it was meant to protect. That it was created as a defensive tool, to guard the Byzantine Empire against invaders. But in the wrong hands, that kind of power becomes something else entirely. It's said that before his death, Callinicus, the supposed inventor, wrote a final note. Only a single line survived. Fire is both guardian and curse. May those who wield it remember its soul. Its soul. Think about that. Why would a scientist describe fire as having a soul, unless it behaved in ways that felt alive? What if the ancients had stumbled upon a reaction that mimicked biological behavior? A living chemical process, consuming, adapting, and even spreading like an organism? Fast forward to today, there are rumors, whispers really, about modern nanothermite research producing intelligent ignition responses. Fire that reacts differently to various materials. Fire that decides what to burn. Sounds impossible, right? That's what we said about Greek fire. And yet, every few decades, a new weapon appears that feels like a rebirth of it. In 2019, an image leaked from a Middle Eastern testing facility. It showed a small drone releasing a thin stream of liquid that burst into blue-white flames upon contact with sand. Witnesses said the flames danced, like they were alive. The footage vanished hours later. So here's the question: is Greek fire truly lost? Or has it been reborn, rebranded, and hidden behind modern warfare technology? Maybe that's why every empire that tried to control it eventually collapsed. Byzantium, Rome, even modern nations that toyed with the formula saw strange accidents, disappearances, and fires. It's almost as if the weapon has a will of its own. The ancients called it the flame that obeys. But perhaps it was never obeying them. Maybe it was choosing a force, ancient, intelligent, and eternal, resurfacing when humanity gets too close to power it cannot handle. Maybe that's why every trace of it is either lost or burned. Because the real mystery isn't how Greek fire worked. It's why it keeps coming back, and maybe it always will. Before you leave, think about this. If a weapon so ancient could still haunt our modern world, what else from history have we rediscovered? Without realizing it? Comment below what you think. Was Greek fire a lost human invention? Or something far beyond human understanding? And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark corners of forgotten history, hit that like button, subscribe to Untold Mysteries, and share this video with someone who thinks they know everything about ancient warfare. Because sometimes, the most dangerous secrets are the ones that were never meant to be found.